What is up, guys? We're looking at the top 16 decks from the CL in Osaka this weekend. This is our first look at the format that will be played at EUIC with Budew and Reddy. So the cards coming out in our Terrestrial Festival set, so Prismatic Evolution. The EV set that you guys may know it as a collector. This is going to be having all the fun new cards from that set. It'll have Budew, it'll have Reddy. So you guys will see what the real impact of Budew is here, because it's a actual game-breaking card. This small mini set that you think might not actually have that big of a difference will have a significant difference on the Pokemon TCG format. And you guys who are sick of Reggie Drago out there, sick of those aggro decks, you guys will see how the format actually changes. If you guys enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. We're going to be looking at the top 16 decks from this Champions League, where over 5,000 Masters, or about 5,000 Masters competed, I believe, or registered and played. 15 Swiss rounds, best of one, into a top 16 cut. Most of the players in the cut were 13-2. A few 12-3s snuck in, but the 12-3s also went from, like, I don't know, man, like 14th place all the way down to somewhere in like the 50s or 60s. So 12-3 was a pretty wide range of placements. It was all best of one, so keep that in mind as well when you're looking at these lists. So it's going to be a little bit weird. I haven't looked at these lists just yet either, so we're going to be looking at them together and analyzing them, and I can kind of talk about how I think why they're the way they are. Is that okay, or is that a little bit small? It seems a little bit small. Can we open this new tab? Is that better? Nope, it's not better. Okay, we're going to just look at it here like this, okay? Sorry, you guys are going to have to bear with it. It's a little bit tiny. So the winning list was Arcaludon, 4-4 Arcaludon with a 2-2 Dialga. Seems pretty standard. I think you could play a 4-3 Arcaludon, but I think you really want to chain those Arcaludons. So prizing one could be really troublesome if you play 3. So I think having that is really important. 2-2 Dialga is interesting when you have Thornton, because you could play a 1-2, but again, you don't want to prize anything, and there's no heavy balls right now. This player chose to go for full consistency, which ended up winning in the tournament. 1 Fez, 1 Greninja, and a Relicanth. The Relicanth is really good. I think I would have played a heavy ball to just be able to get to that. I guess you have no way to find the heavy ball. But I do think 1 heavy ball could be really good to get to the Relicanth. 4 Nest, 4 Ultra, 3 Vessels, super consistent. Stretcher is also really good because you're going to be, wanting to get that 1 energy back. Putting the energies in the discard with Greninja is really important. And just being able to get resources back is super important as well in this deck because you're playing out of your discard. 2 Gear to couple with the 4 Research, 3 Iono, 2 Turo, 3 Boss, and a Thornton is really good. I don't think you need... I think I would like a 4th boss, because I think boss is like pretty pivotal to winning a lot of our games and a lot of our strategies. So I think that's the one card I would have liked a 4th copy of. But besides that, I think the Scoop Up Cyclone is really cool. I think that's the A-Spec of choice that I would also play in this. I think the only other thing, maybe you could play like Scramble Switch or Prime Catcher as well. This is probably one of the few decks that has the most versatile use case scenarios for A-Specs, because they're all really good. Like your guy's 300 HP, it's really difficult to take down, and by just chaining attacks of 220 over and over again, decks can't really deal with this. So I quite like this tech inclusion. Next up was second place. And in second place, we had Ancient Box. Now, Ancient Box, this is taking a unique version to it, because you have the 4 Flutter, the 4 Roaring Moon, which I think is pretty staple, but you have 4 Great Tusk. So you're basically saying, I don't want to play Koraidon as another attacker. I think Koraidon is a pretty good attacker. Maybe not even one copy of it here, just opting to go straight Roaring Moons as your only attacker, and using Great Tusk to mill out your opponents if they're in a pretty poor spot, which I think is pretty commendable, because if you can start just milling 4 at a time, in best of 1 especially, your opponents won't really have an answer sometimes. They'll just lose all their good cards, and so that's really unique, I think. The Petrate EX, I think, is also pretty stock standard at this point, because you want to be able to get into just whatever attackers you need to get into immediately. You really can't afford to break, and I think that's probably the only 2 prizer you should be playing this deck ever. The Monkey Dory is cute. I don't really think it's good, because I don't think you're ever going to rack up enough damage on yourself to the point where the Monkey Dory actually matters with numbers. Like maybe you poison yourself, get to 30, and then somehow that Roaring Moon doesn't die immediately to one of our attackers in the active, where we have to move that damage. So in theory, it makes sense, but I don't think it actually does anything. 4 Nest, staple, 1 Ultra seems fine. I think you might want a second just for discard fodder. 1 Heavy is good. 4 Vessel makes sense to me. 2 Counter Catcher good. 1 Dark Patch, I like that quite a bit, because you can power up Petch at the end of the game and just blow up something, or power up 1 Roaring Moon. I quite like 1 Dark Patch. I think it makes sense. Palpad's very good. The Gears are very good. SCR is good. Rod is really good in this deck as well. Rod plus 2 Stretcher is like the ideal combo, I feel like, of recovery cards. 1 Blender. I think Blender is the perfect A-Spec for this. I think Secret Box is also pretty good, but Blender is just like a guaranteed plus 50, which I really like in this deck. So I think this is how you want to play it. For the tool of the supporters, 1 Boss seems correct. 3 this, 7, yep. Agree with this list. Seems pretty good. I think it's pretty solid standard list. Let's look at top 4. Now, the 2 decks I got top 4 were Dragapult and Lugia. I am going to look at it like this because I think it's better than zooming in a little bit. The Dragapult list, the interesting thing is it's a 4-4-3, but the really interesting list before we go to the rest of the list that I immediately noticed is Lance. There's 2 copies of Lance in this list. Let me zoom in, actually. Maybe this works better a little bit. Let's do this. Yeah. We like that. Lance. There's 2 copies of Lance, and I think Lance is really good because everyone else is playing Budew. So you're both sitting there Bedewing each other. So you're both going to Arven turn 1, get your Poffins, get the board running. So you at least get 1 turn to like find a Poffin and do something. If you go first, you can find your Poffin immediately. If you go second, your opponent's going to Poffin, get Budew, and just start locking you instantly. Then you're both having a Budew war, but while you're Budew warring, you want to be finding your recon directives and just evolve up slowly and get where you need to be. And Lance is a really good supporter at doing exactly that. Lance is going to go ahead and fetch you those Dracloaks, that Dragapult, just get your board set up. The Pheasantipity, the Alakazam, makes sense in the deck. The Dusknoir engine being more popular again seems really good because the Dusknoir plus Dragapult engine is just super easy, super standard to pull off. And you have Budew to like lock people while you're slowly evolving up. Like a slower format favors decks like Dragapult because this deck picks off other setup decks. At the same time, is pretty good into aggro decks if it actually gets set up. The problem is until now it wasn't really getting set up, and that was the biggest issue with it. But now with cards like Budew, you can sit behind the Budew and just keep popping something in the active, buying a turn, being able to Lance on that following turn, evolve like triple Dreepy into triple Dracloak, or just get another Dreepy and like 2 Dracloaks or something, and then you Lance again, or you Iono, find those Dragapults, and your Budew is still in the active, fighting for its life, but this 30 HP attacker is just going to buy you so much time. So I really like the list. The Klefki is the one thing that I don't think I really care about. I mean, it's fine to kind of like, I guess, go into early. You can like skateboard into the Klefki, TM Evo, and maybe evolve behind it and slow down some of the other decks. But I think Budew, the 2 Budew is just like so insane. I'm a huge fan of the 2 Budew. Then we have Lugia, my baby, my child, however you want to call it, the deck I'm here known for. You have the 2/2 Chinchino line. I think it's pretty good in this format with Dragapult and stuff like that on the rise again. 4 Mist is quite aggressive for Dragapult. Makes sense though. I think it's fine. There's no Wordier in this list because you don't need to play Wordier anymore. You can play cards like Regigigas, and Regigigas says 100 plus 230 if they're a Terra Pokemon. So you can blow up Dragapult, you can blow up Charizard. That's 2 big things you can take out. You blow up Cornerstone, you blow up a lot of stuff, a lot of really important stuff gets blown up by Regigigas, which is a really good attacker. So you actually don't need to play Wordier anymore, which means Mist can go on a higher count, DTE can go to a lower count, which then makes it so you have more non-DTE energies to use for all your attackers. Ogerpon I think I like quite a bit. I like the hands quite a bit. I like the bear. I don't like the 1/1 split on the Great Ball Nest Ball. I think you just commit to the 2 Nest Ball. I'm glad Japan's picking up and understanding that Squawk ability is broken. Thank you so much. Don't like 3 boss. I think you need 4 boss. The 1 Carmine 3 research split also do not like. So maybe I would just take the Carmine, make it into a 4th boss. I think I like the Thornton. The Thornton is cool. The Jock is cool. I think besides that, the list is like exactly how I would play it as well. And maybe the Thornton could be like a stretcher potentially. But I think I do like Thornton quite a bit. I think that card is quite good, especially when you want to go back into Regigigas, when you go back into Bear. I would make spot for a Pheasantipity somewhere. But that's pretty much it. Like I don't think you're ever going to use both Chinchinos and Gigas in a game, so maybe I would cut a baby Chinchino, Minchino, for either a Fez. Probably a Fez. And I think the jamming is cope. I think the jamming just becomes a Masagoza if I was looking at Lugia. I will be putting a lot of this into my masterclass. If you guys want to find that, that is in my Metafy link, which is in the bio description, whatever you want to go there. It's $25. It's an all-encompassing Lugia class that I will keep updating until the day rotation happens. So you guys will be able to get up-to-date information on my thoughts on Lugia. And more than likely, you will have like the 57, 58 cards that I will play at any given tournament, updated and put on there at a time. And it breaks down all the matchups, so check that out as well if you want to. So that wraps up our top 4. We're moving into top 8. 5th place was Seralege, a very interesting deck. A thin line of Seralege, a 1/2 line of Palkia V-Star, basically saying that the Palkia V-Star is the one thing I don't want to mill off my Pokestop, but if I mill one, I can get another one back, and I don't really care if I discard one early. I can always stretcher it back. The 1 Palkia on the board is the more important thing. 3 Charcadets, playing the Budew as well to buy some time in the early game. The Squawk, Luminion. Basically, like everything is stock standard. The Monkadori is cool as well because if something doesn't one-shot you, you can just ramp up your damage as well pretty quickly. The Jets are cool. The heavy water. And then Secret Box is the ace spec. Now, that's kind of unique because I would expect a deck like this to play Blunder or Legacy Energy most of the time. But the box is really cool because you can basically pull out the 1 stop you have in your deck. You basically pull out a bunch of cards all at once. No tool, though, which is like fine, I guess. I guess you could play. I don't know what tool you would even play in this deck. Yeah, I don't know what tool you'd play. Maybe like in a skateboard. I don't know. But besides that, like the secret box just pulls out 3 cards, it thins out 3 cards, and a lot of the time you're just looking for a way to get to your evolutions. Like in this deck, you need to find that Seralege turn 2, you need to find that Palkia at turn 2, potentially to get into the game. So that's basically what you're looking for, and that's what it gets to you. It gets you to Ultra Ball, it gets you to more cards, it gets you to a consistent stream of researches. I think the supporter line makes quite a bit of sense. I like the Carmine. I think I would play 2 Carmine, 3 research, just because I think like going turn 1 Carmine or Squawk is super important going first. Because you just want to like blow up, like you want to start blowing stuff up on turn 2. But otherwise, really cool list. Really like Seralege. I think it's a pretty good deck. Once again, we got Lugia in top 8. This is a little bit more of an abomination that I'm used to. We have 2 Gigas, 2 hands, so we're just all inning on attackers. No Ursaluna, just saying that we don't need that for the end game, which I disagree with heavily. I think Ursaluna should be in the deck. I think I would just cut a hands. I don't think you ever need 2 hands. But I like the Lightning. The Lightning's cool. You know, I'm a big fan of the Lightning. You guys know me. Love the Lightning. Don't ever think you need the 3 Goza. That's just not it. You don't need that. But I do quite like the Drapion. The Drapion makes a lot of sense. It's a really cool card. One-shots to Gardevoir EX, especially when we're getting Budew locked early. Ideally, we hand something. Hands goes down. We can take a prize with Lugia. Lugia goes down. Take 1 more prize, and then we end the game with Drapion on a Guardy. Which makes quite a bit of sense. I think the Drapion is a really cool inclusion, especially in a format where Gardevoir is one of the best decks in the game. And the 2 Gigas does also make sense with no Thornton, no Stretcher, whatever, right? Because the 2 Gigas is just really, really good into Dragapult and Charizard, which is, yeah, I like that quite a bit. Another Archaludon making top 8. Yeah, I bet that from this point, you guys have like not expected any of these decks, by the way. Like, you're like, where's my Regidrago? Where's my Charizard? Sucks to suck, guys. Badoo's a card now. Very similar to the list that won here. No Dialga, though. So a little bit more Turbo Speed Racer, playing Squawk for the early game. Playing Luminion as well to find supporters, basically committing to turn 1, go crazy, get turn 2 Archaludon, have Scoop Up Cyclone to keep chaining, 2 Turo. I like the 4 Boss a lot. 4 Jamming Tower is quite aggressive, but a lot of these decks that we've talked about so far really do struggle against Jamming Tower turn 1. Like the Dragapult deck does not have a good time at a Jamming Tower. Guardy doesn't have a good time at a Jamming Tower. Any deck that needs Evo has a terrible time at a Jamming Tower. Any deck that needs Sealstone, terrible time at a Jamming Tower. Really good card, I think, in this upcoming format. Jamming Tower will be one of the better cards that the game has to offer. Then we have a Miraidon that somehow snuck its way into here. I guess if you get to go for, you get 1 turn of items and you make the most of it, Miraidon can be one of the scariest decks in the game, powering up a hand, something else, and having Magneton as well on the backside. Minior is really cute here because I think the player was just expecting to play against Lax, but nothing to write home about this list. Everything is pretty standard across the board. The 1 Rod, 2 DTEs for the hands, double hands, basically committing all into hands for these new setup decks. So your opponent's like scared to go to Budew now too, because if they go to Budew, the hands will just blow it up. The game basically ends. Where your opponent, if they're Bedewing, they're not Evoing. If they're not Evoing, their board is not set up. If they choose to Evo, then hands can go in and do its thing anyway. Then they have to answer the hands immediately, or the hands will end the game. So Miraidon is still a pretty scary deck. It creates the conundrum of like, you have to deal with my hands immediately, but the problem is Miraidon is inherently not a late game deck, so the Magneton, even though it gives you some pull, the deck will stutter against stuff like Budew if you don't have a crazy turn 1. Wraps up our top 8. On to the top 16. 8 more decks. Dragapult here making it into the top 16. Another list, 4-4-3, 2-1-2. Same basically structure, no Klefki, but this time we're playing 3 copies of Lance. Now, basically we're committing to Artisans here, so Artisan also like helps us get Pokemon basics through Budew. Basically playing a lot of cards to just find our early setup, because this player, which is, I think Haru Nishikawa was the one who played it, a very good player, got 2nd place at regionals last year in the West. In Australia, so I think being able to play these cards and getting to Lance and chaining Lance is really strong. So I really like the idea of the list, and I really like the vision of it. I think it's just one of those decks that, like, if it actually gets set up and actually gets to play, is one of the strongest decks in the room. And I think so. Dragapult is going to be, I think, one of the best tier S contenders in the upcoming format that you guys have to deal with and like kind of give respect to, if that makes any sense. Next up is our first Gardevoir. I thought Gardevoir would be a lot higher in presence because Gardevoir has a good Dragapult matchup. If you play cards like Cresselia, and Dragapult in general is just a very powerful deck into a lot of this meta. And with Budew, it's really strong as well. But this list is just not playing Budew. No respect to the Budew, choosing to all in on the TM Evo, and playing Trolley Call Bell, basically giving us 8 ways to get to Arven on turn 1. Making it so we get to Arven, we get to get the Trolley, we get to load up our board, and immediately go into the TM Evo and set up, our board and just start popping things. No Manaphy, basically saying that I'm going to get my Evo up, and if you have an answer to pop 2 Manaphy's, or pop 2 guys, I've probably lost the game anyway. So it's kind of committing to this slow, speedy Guardy strategy that gets punished heavily by like a Radiant Greninja attack or like a Water Ogerpon attack. But otherwise, I think it's like pretty good. I think Dragapult is gonna run you over without Budew, to be honest. Like I think you're gonna do your turn one setup, and then you have refinements. They have airmails, both abilities that let you see 2 cards at the very least, which is a common theme between these 2 setup decks. But yeah, I don't really understand how this version is better than, like, I don't even. I think you should put 1 Budew in the deck, maybe. I don't know, like cut an Artisan for a Budew, maybe. But consistent, good. This player got top 16. Seralege once again making another top cut appearance here with a pretty standard list, just a 1/1 Polka this time around, and Prime Catcher as the ace spec, basically choosing to be a little bit more aggressive. Jamming Towers, 2 Jamming Towers again, to slow down your opponents, and Briar to beat these 1 prize setup decks at the very end of the game, because your opponents might not expect you to have a Briar. And the rate this deck actually thins cards with 3 Research, 3 Carmine, and a Squawk is like incredible. Like this deck just zooms through its deck. And that's just something to be said about the deck. So you'll end up with like a very few cards in the deck at the very end of the game, where like you can go Luminian for Briar, or even just like draw through your deck with Greninja and get to the Briar or Pheasantipity at the end of the game. So like it is a very strong deck. The problem is very one-dimensional into these 1 prize decks. So I think it's not the best deck in general, but it is a very powerful deck when it sets up. Now I don't really know what's going on here. I saw the Goldango and I was expecting a Goldango deck, but after seeing the first 2/2 Goldango line, you can see that it is not Goldango. It is Dragapult's Goldango. So I think the Goldango is meant to be a draw engine, but also like a secondary attacker if need be with the metal energies. But basically it's like, I have Dracloaks, I have Goldangos to draw cards. I can technically at one point in the game explode something for 1,000,000 damage because I have 2 SERs and I have 1 Vessel, but no actual way to get those energies into my hands. 4 Crispin is a little bit ridiculous. That's like kind of crazy. 4 Crispin, no Iono, just we're all gas, no brakes, but we have Unfair Stamp. It's just a very weird combination of cards that I'm seeing right now. I don't really understand the identity of this deck, but I think it's just like go fast, attack with Crispin early, try to make some magic happen, I guess. After you like Budew Luck probably for a turn. Lana Zade is quite a cool card because it does get you back 3 Pokemon or 3 energy. Some combination of them I think as well. I might be mistaken on that. But it's a way to get around Budew. So a Lana Zade plus an SCR towards the end of the game is something that Goldango can do to just like blow something up, which is kind of cool. But there's like there's not a lot of energy. But I don't know. Hey, I'm not the messenger. This is just a really strange deck, cool deck. I'll play it probably when rotation happens and let you guys know my thoughts on it further. Another Miraidon deck here in the top cut. We have a very standard idea. 2 Squawk is really cool because now you're just saying, hey, I don't want to prize Squawk. I don't want to prize Heavy Ball. Secret Box is the A spec. Lets you thin a ton of cards. Disruption. Just 4 Boss, 4 Arven. I like that a lot. We're just full committing to the strategy of like, I'm going to hands and I'm going to hands you at some point. Like we're just going to get there. And if I don't get there, I will lose the game. So like this quite a bit. Very standard Miraidon list. Big fan. The 1 Charm is cute as well because you can charm your first hands and it becomes kind of an absolute unit if you have the Secret Box to do it. And with Tool Seal Stone, you should be able to get to Raikou, whatever you need to do at some point in the game. Our first Charizard actually making an appearance in the top 16 cut. I thought Charizard would not, but this is exactly how I kind of predicted Charizard would adapt. 3/2/3 Charizard, 2/2/2 Pidgeot, Radzard, a 2/1/1 Dusknoir, the classic support trio of Pokemon, the 3 S-Ball, the 4 Ultra, the 4 Poffin, the Heavy, 3 Candy. You're probably wondering where are they making space for all these cards. There's just no tech items and tech supporters or anything. It's just the 1 Thornton, the 1 Turo, which is a pretty standard package, and then every other card is just pure consistency, it feels like, with a Grand Tree in here as your main way to evolve up. So you got a Grand Tree into like Pidgeot probably, and then if your opponent's Bedewing you and doesn't bump your Stadium, you can Grand Tree into Charizard as well. But if you can like Grand Tree the Pidgey into the Pidgeot, then now you have access to any card you want while you're getting Bedewed. So I understand why this deck did well. However, it still looks like it sucks. So Charizard fans out there, I'm really sorry. This still does not look like the best deck in the room. I think it needs a lot of work. But I think maybe you could try it. Try Grand Tree. And we got another Lugia. Let's get it. This guy knows the drill. 1/1 Cinccino. That's the play. Wardier as well in the deck. I don't think you still need the Wardier at that point. But you have the Wardier and the Gigas and the Drapion. Basically playing all these tech cards to deal with the matchup. And a Stretcher and a Thornton. Wow, we got a lot of tech cards in here. I don't think you need all that again. Like I said, I think that if you cut the Warrior, you can make the 4th DT into a 4th Mist. I think you can cut the Stretcher for a 2nd Goza here. The Carmine can just become 4th Research, and then find a slot somewhere for a Pheasantipity, and the list looks good. I don't know. Like, this is kind of how I'd play it. Again, you guys will see it in the masterclass. No more Lugia harping. Let's keep moving on. Last but not least, in the top 16, we have another wonderful Dusknoir deck. This one only playing a 2-1-1 Dusknoir deck with Dragapult. And this one has a Temple, which is kind of unique for Lugia matchup, I guess. If they don't expect it in the end of the game, you can go Temple and just like mist blow up something probably with Alakazam, like a Chinchino maybe, or a Minchino. 2 Lance once again, so a minimum of 2 Lance has been in every single Dragapult deck. So you guys need to like grab your copies of Lance if you're going to play this deck. And if you're a blinger like me, you got to go get those full art Lances right now. But yeah, I think that's the kind of unique things to keep in mind. I guess these are like a couple other lists that maybe did well, or like City Leagues or something. But in general, I think Dragapult is one of the most broken decks. Miraidon is a good counter to it. Seralege seems pretty powerful. Guardy seems good. Lugia still seems quite strong. Arcaladon is a new kid on the block. And Ancient Box can pose a threat. So if you guys enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. But that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 16 decks. Peace out.